How long can I make this awkward for? This one is interesting. This one is a couple months in the making and we're still not quite there yet, but I wanted to share the progress of this little project I've been working on. I've been collecting parts for my DREAM Pentium 3 gaming PC, and since you guys loved the retro content that we did, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, whatever, we've still got more of that original Pentium 1 system coming with benchmarking and all that stuff, but I wanted to move on to the build for the next one, but the problem is, I need your help. I actually really need your help with this one. The first thing is, I've got the motherboard, the CPU, the graphics card, and basically everything else I need, but there's a few components missing, so I guess we should find out what they are. Let's do it. Trying to keep this one as vloggy as possible, trying to make it easy to make because we've been not uploading as much lately because a lot of stuff's been happening, but I'm back in full force. I think we have 5 videos this week, Claire. 5 whole videos this week.
And it's my birthday.
It's Claire's birthday in I don't know when this video is coming up, but it's Claire's birthday in 2 days from whenever we're filming this. But I wanted to share some of the parts of my Pentium 3 system with you, considering I do have a couple of them and something kind of rare. So first off, I've already got the CPU and stuff on the motherboard here because I've been pre-testing everything already. And you can see there's a 60mm Phoenix fan on here because the original fan is so loud and annoying that I wanted to punch it into the sun. So I needed to put something a lot quieter on here, and that's what I did. So this is the 8-bit VL6. It supports socket 370 CPUs. I've got a Pentium 3 733 on here. This is the version with the 133 megahertz frontside bus, so I can use faster memory with it and all that jazz and all that kind of stuff. This one was donated to me by my best mate. He was throwing out some old hardware and he was like, hey dude, I've got this for you. Do you want it? It's got a CPU on it and some RAM. So it's got 512 megabytes of RAM. And all the caps and everything on the motherboard are in really good condition. And I have pre-tested this already, and I've got a Windows XP drive already set up with everything configured so far on here. Now, there's a few little things that I need to address, and this is where I need your guys' help. I want to put a better CPU cooler on here. So anything that fits socket 462 or socket 370 will fit on this board. So like Athlon XP CPUs and Pentium 3 cools will work on here. I've actually gone ahead and bought a new CPU for this board as well. I bought a Pentium 3 1 gigahertz CPU for this. I bought it 6 weeks ago from Germany. So it's still on its way. I only paid 15 bucks for it and it had free shipping. So hopefully it arrives, but I'm gonna push on with the build anyway because I figured we'd go through a whole thing where we would compare the performance between the 733 and the 1 gigahertz chip just for a bit of comparison. Now, that's not the only thing we're doing here. The next thing I need help with is, well, I've kind of already made up my decision, but I'm gonna talk to you guys about it anyway. The video cards. I've got 2 to choose from. One of them is less period correct. One of them is absolutely period correct. So the non-period correct one here is the NVIDIA GeForce FX 5200. This is probably one of the worst video cards ever made. This graphics card was known for being abysmal when it released. It was absolutely terrible. This was the least recommended video card. The series before it was much more powerful, and this was more expensive and just pretty rubbish. So that's kind of why I don't want to use it. I know it works with this board because I've already pre-tested it, so I know it runs. But the GPU I'm thinking of using, or rather the graphics card I'm thinking of using, or the video card if you will, is also a 3D accelerator donated by a good friend of ours, Ronnie from Tech Therapy over in Austria. You guys, if you're into PC hardware, and you have been for a while, you'll know exactly what this is. It's the 3DFX Voodoo 5 5500. It is a dual GPU SLI on a card monster. Absolute beastie card for its time. There were cards that were faster, but this was the pinnacle of 3DFX. This is released just before they no longer existed and got consumed by NVIDIA. So yeah, this is one of their last ever GPUs, dual GPU, hence the 2 fans on it, and it also requires Molex power. So this thing, yeah, absolute nutter of a card in its day. I can't wait to play some Unreal Tournament on this monster. Next up, there are a few pitfalls of building a computer from this generation. The first thing is, I'm thinking that I don't want to use any actual IDE cables because they're a bit ugly, and I can get round IDE cables like the ones we used to do when we did case mods back in the day. A lot harder to get these days. So I'm thinking, this is my thoughts. I haven't tried this yet. So what I've got an IDE to SATA adapter already that I've done all my pre-flight testing on a regular, I think it's a 525 gig Crucial SSD, and it works. Windows XP runs beautifully on it. The problem is, again, I don't want to use SATA. So I've come up with a solution that may or may not work. I haven't tested it yet, but I have been able to boot off this card in the past. So this is an Adaptec SATA RAID card or SATA RAID card, but I should be able to boot off this on here. You may be asking yourself, why don't you use a SATA or SATA PCI card and just boot from that? Doesn't work. I already went that path and tested that out. It does not work. Because this has a BIOS that loads in the pre-boot environment and it bootstraps itself in at post, it should be, in fact, be able to work. The next thing for the keynote out there, you're probably saying, hey, that card's not PCI at all. Correct. It's PCIe X. It's a 64-bit version of PCI with extra fingers on the end here. You may not have even seen one of these. PCIe X slots were typically on server boards of the era and in Macs. Macs actually used PCIe X cards there for a little while too. But this one, what happens is if you plug, I'll show you, right? This is just me just riffing and raffing to you guys today, right? So PCI cards, obviously this is bigger, but PCIe X will run in 32-bit mode if you quite literally plug it in and let the fingers hang off the edge. This is from an old server pool in the data center. That sounds so wrong. Server pool. But many years ago in the data center, we were renewing some stuff and I switched out this card for a different controller and I was like, hey, we don't need that. I'm sure they're not missing that card. So I've had this card for years and years and years, but yeah, it's from an old data center server pool. I've got lots of these old cards that I pulled out of servers in the data center back in the day. But yeah, it works no problem. That's basically the only way I've ever used it on boards for testing and stuff, is just plugging it in with PCI just like that. It works, it boots, does all the things you need to do. It just doesn't have access to that 64-bit bus, which is okay because we don't need that. We don't need it. The next thing is sound. Now, this does have an integrated audio codec. What is this one? I can't remember. It's here somewhere on the board, but who cares? Because we're not using it. I've ordered a Sound Blaster Live 5.1, complete, period correct, absolute monster of a sound card, because we want the sound to be really, really good. So that's what we're doing for sound. The last issue I have, and this is the really, really big one, is I'm going to be building a reverse sleeper. So all of this hardware will be in a modern case because ATX form factor, I can do almost all of the things that modern PC cases support. The massive issue being that I can't pick a case. I think I want to do reverse sleep with RGB and all that stuff. I've got a few little things I want to do as well in terms of RGB control, because with OpenRGB and the RGB control stuff I'm thinking of using, I can recompile it to use it in probably any Windows version I like. So we're gonna try and recompile OpenRGB for a really old version of Windows. And if we can't do that, we're gonna recompile it to run in Linux. So yeah, it's just a fun little project. You know, I wasn't gonna share this with you guys until I had more of the hardware here, but with all the shipping delays that we're having at the moment, it's ridiculous. yeah, I thought I would just share it with you in the meantime and get a video out to show you guys what I've got planned. It's funny actually, because we've been getting a lot of questions about our NZXT H510 Flow content. 3 weeks shipping from Melbourne. 3 weeks. Still hasn't arrived. It's been on board for delivery like 4 times. You know, it'd be really funny, Claire, if the doorbell rings right now and the cases arrive. But I don't even think they're on board for delivery today again anyway.
Not happening.
So yeah, that's my little pet project that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. I do have a network card as well. I am debating whether or not to use a gigabit card that I've got just to make everything heaps faster. I probably will end up going gigabit for this. We can even do Wi-Fi. I've got a PCI Wi-Fi card laying around, but no, we'll do wide for all the things. So stay tuned, subscribe, and all that other jazz so you can see when I get around to building this and all the other hardware comes. But I do need your help with picking a case for this because I just got no idea what I want to use. If you've got some suggestions for anything exotic, that's also very cool. The main thing is I want this to be a permanent system, not something that just like is just rubbish. I want it to look nice, but I also want it to be as small as possible too. So if you've got any suggestions, let me know down below in the comment section where you drop all of that stuff. So yeah, that's gonna do it for me. Easy video, Claire. Yeah. Just sharing stuff with people, you know? Yeah. All of that jazz. Anyways, ladies and gents, if you enjoyed the video and you learned a little something about some older hardware, like it. If you hated the video, hit the dislike button twice. Once again, I'm your boy Nick with Gear Seekers. You peak, we seek. But this is something I'm really keen for because I've spent hours getting this thing up and running perfectly. I didn't want to put you guys through all of that like malarkey getting this up and running, but I was like, oh, you know what? I'll get it all up and running, get to the point where we're ready to make a video. And then I was sitting around today going, I kind of want to share this with you guys. I don't want to hide it from you because this stuff's exciting to me. So let me know if you want to see more. Let's call it retro because it is now. It's at a certain age. So Pentium 3 would even be retro. So yeah. Oh, I'm still talking.